The fluorescent lights of my parents' diner cast their familiar glow across the worn tabletops long after closing time. Outside, darkness pressed against the windows, while inside, the scent of coffee and apple pie wrapped around me like an old friend. Mom wiped down the counter with practiced strokes, humming under her breath. Dad counted receipts at the register. Everything felt normal, comfortable, safe. I should have known better. So Lauren, Camille's voice drifted across the table, smooth as honey, but with an undertone that made my skin prickle. I've been meaning to ask about that trust money of yours. My coffee cup paused halfway to my lips. Travis, my brother, sat next to his fiancée, nodding like they'd rehearsed this moment. Maybe they had. His eyes held an eagerness that turned my stomach sour. What about it? The words came out slower than I intended, each syllable heavy with sudden wariness. Camille leaned forward, her pearl necklace catching the light. Well, when exactly can you access your grandfather's money? Travis and I were talking, and it seemed silly just letting it sit there. The diner's comfortable warmth evaporated. My parents' movements stilled Mom's cloth frozen mid-swipe, Dad's fingers hovering over the calculator. They knew. They all knew this was coming. The trust has specific conditions, I said, setting my cup down with careful precision. Grandfather Walter was very clear about its place. Travis cleared his throat. Come on, Laura. It's just sitting there unused while we're struggling to start our lives. You know how hard it is for young couples these days. The scene shifted in my mind, memories surfacing like old photographs. Grandfather Walter lying in his casket, hands folded over his chest, his weathered face peaceful. The wood-paneled office where Mr. Harrison, the family attorney, read the will. The shocked silence when he announced the trust fund $180,000 left specifically to me, with clear restrictions. I remembered Travis's hug afterward, too tight, too long. You always were his favorite, he'd whispered, his smile not reaching his eyes. 6 months ago, Camille had waltzed into our lives with her old money polish and charm, all perfect posture and calculated smiles. Her words about family finances started subtly. A casual inquiry here, a pointed observation there. I watched my independent brother transform into her eager yes man, watched my parents slowly shift their perspective until I became the selfish one for not sharing. The money can only be used for education, buying a home, or starting a business, I explained, my voice firm despite the trembling in my hands. Those were grandfather's conditions, they're legally binding. Camille waved her hand dismissively, her diamond engagement ring catching the light. But family comes first, darling. Rules can be bent. I'm sure if your grandfather knew how much Travis and I needed help getting started. He knew exactly what he was doing, I cut in, the words sharp enough to make her blink. He wrote those conditions for a reason. I guess we know where your priorities lie, Travis sighed, disappointment heavy in his voice. The same tone he'd used when I refused to let him copy my homework in high school. Mom's clothes started moving again, faster now. Dad punched calculator buttons with unnecessary force. The silence stretched between us, thick with unspoken accusations. I pushed my chair back, the legs scraping against linoleum. I should go. Lauren. Mom started, but I was already grabbing my purse, already moving toward the door. The night air hit my face like a splash of cold water. My hands shook as I fumbled with my phone, scrolling to Teresa's number. My cousin would understand. She'd been there when Grandfather Walter told me stories about building his own business, when he showed me his ledgers and taught me about profit margins. When he looked me in the eye and said, "You listen, Lauren. That's your gift. You actually listen." Behind me, the diner's lights glowed warm, an inviting facade now, like Camille's smile, like Travis's concern, like my parents' silence. They'd planned this ambush thinking they could guilt me into giving up what Grandfather Walter had protected. But he'd known. Somehow, he'd known this day would come. And he'd prepared me for it. My phone connected, Teresa's voice a lifeline in the darkness. "Lauren, what's wrong?" I leaned against my car, staring at the diner's windows where my family's silhouettes moved like shadows in a play I hadn't known I was part of. "They finally did it, Teresa. They finally asked about the money." "Oh, honey," she breathed, "tell me everything." So I did. While the trust fund papers sat safely in my apartment, their conditions clear and unbreakable, just like Grandfather Walter had intended, just like they would stay. The trust documents spread across my kitchen table the next day caught the morning light, their legal language a fortress of protection. I traced my finger over Grandfather Walter's signature, each loop and curve familiar as the calluses on his hands from years of hard work. The terms stood clear and unbreakable. Education, home purchase, or business startup. Nothing about funding someone else's wedding dreams. My phone buzzed. Another message from Camille. A photo of crystal chandeliers and marble floors filled my screen. Dream venue, only $20 K deposit needed. Thinking of you. Fall. I set the phone face down, but it buzzed again. Mom's name appeared on the screen. My thumb hovered over decline before I answered. Lauren, honey, have you thought more about helping Travis get started in life? The morning sun didn't feel so warm anymore. Mom, we've been through this. The trust has specific conditions. But family helps family. You know Travis has always needed more support than you. The words stung like they had 20 years ago when Travis broke my science fair project, and Mom said I should understand because things were harder for him. Some patterns never changed. I have to go, Mom. Work meeting. After hanging up, I scrolled through social media, my stomach clenching. Posts from Aunt Susan, Uncle Bill, cousins I barely saw except at Christmas, all of them commenting about family loyalty and sharing blessings. Camille had been busy. My phone rang again. Teresa. They're telling everyone you're hoarding family money. My cousin said without preamble. Camille's got half the family convinced you're sitting on a fortune while Travis and his sweet bride struggle. I pressed my forehead against the cool kitchen window. How did this happen so fast? Camille knows exactly what she's doing. And Aunt Diane. Sorry, but your mom's not helping. She keeps saying things like Travis always needed extra support, and Lauren has always been so independent. The family gathering last weekend flashed through my mind, the cold shoulders, the whispered conversations that stopped when I approached. Uncle Bill's voice carried across the potato salad. Some people forget what family really means. My phone chimed with a text from Travis. Mom's been crying because of your selfishness. The first real comfort I'd felt in days. The terms are ironclad, Lauren. Accessing it early would be illegal. Your grandfather knew exactly what he was doing. Why doesn't that make me feel better? Because you're dealing with emotional manipulation, not legal issues. Setting boundaries with family is harder than setting them with strangers. My best friend Rachel brought coffee that evening, settling onto my worn couch. You need distance from this toxic mess. They're all enabling each other. Mom says I'm not welcome at Thanksgiving if I continue being difficult. Rachel's eyes narrowed. Then maybe it's time to be difficult. That night, I wrote the email. My hands shook, but my words didn't. Dear family, I won't be attending Sunday dinner. The trust fund is not up for discussion or negotiation. I love you all, but I need you to respect my boundaries and Grandfather Walter's wishes. Lauren. The responses rolled in like thunder. Mom's shock, Dad's disappointment, Travis's anger. But Camille's message carried the sharpest blade. Family should stick together. I hope you reconsider what really matters. Teresa's response arrived last. It's about time you stood up for yourself. The relief felt like the first breath after being underwater. But guilt crept in around the edges, familiar as an old sweater. A week later, I stopped by my parents' house to pick up mail they still received for me. They weren't home, but the computer in Dad's study glowed with an open browser. My hand froze on the mouse as I went to close it. Legal ways to contest a family trust. Proving mental incompetence in trust cases. How to challenge trust fund restrictions. My phone camera clicked quietly as I documented the search history. In the reflection of the darkened screen, my face looked like Grandfather Walter's when he told me his final secret. The others see money as the answer, he'd said, his weathered hands folded in his hospital bed. But you see it as a tool to build something real. That's why you'll get the trust. That's why there are conditions. Standing in my parents' study, surrounded by evidence of their betrayal, I finally understood. He hadn't just left me money. He'd left me a test. And they were all failing it. My hands trembled as I forwarded the photos to Mr. Harrison and Teresa. The house felt foreign now, every family photo on the wall a question mark. In the kitchen where Mom had taught me to bake, where Dad had helped with homework, where Travis and I had shared midnight snacks, every memory tilted sideways. I locked the door behind me, knowing something else had locked too. The part of me that believed family loyalty meant saying yes. The part that thought love meant giving in. Grandfather Walter's voice echoed in my memory. Standing your ground isn't selfishness, Lauren. Sometimes it's the only way to show them who you really are. As I drove home, my phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. Another distant relative I'd have to block. But the words made my blood run cold. Hope you're ready for the fight, dear, because that's what this is now. The trust documents waited on my kitchen table, solid as Grandfather Walter's principles. I added the photos of the search history to the file, a new kind of evidence for a war I never wanted to fight. But I wasn't running anymore. They wanted a battle over money. They'd get a lesson in integrity instead. The email from Mom sits in my inbox like a ticking bomb. Family discussion, Wednesday 7 p.m., the diner. No explanation needed. After weeks of cold shoulders and whispered phone calls, they're ready to make their move. I park behind the diner at 6:55 p.m. that same day, watching shadows move behind the drawn blinds. My hands curl around Grandfather Walter's pocket watch. The familiar weight steadies my breathing as I count the cars lined up front. Mom's station wagon, Dad's pickup, Uncle Bill's SUV, Aunt Sarah's minivan, the whole cavalry. The bell chimes as I push open the door. Familiar scents of coffee and pie crust twist into something sour when I see them all arranged in a semicircle of booth seats. Mom, Dad, Travis. Camille in a pristine white blouse, pearls gleaming. Uncle Bill and Aunt Sarah. Even Cousin Mark, who hasn't spoken to me since Christmas. Lauren. Mom's voice wavers. Please, sit down. The only empty chair faces them all, positioned like a witness stand. I remain standing. Dad clears his throat, fingers drumming against his coffee mug. We're worried about your judgment, honey. Are you? The words come out calmer than I feel. Or are you worried about something else? Camille rises, smoothing her skirt. A projector hums to life, casting a spreadsheet onto the wall where the vintage Coca-Cola sign usually hangs. Numbers march down in neat columns. We've prepared a detailed presentation. Her voice flows smooth as warmed honey. Travis and I have carefully considered the most prudent allocation of family resources. Travis nods eagerly. It's a solid investment plan, Laura. We're talking about our future here. The spreadsheet shifts to a new slide. Wedding, venue, and expenses, $45,000. Click. House down payment, $35,000. Click. European honeymoon package, $10,000. $90,000. The words hang in the air, half my trust fund laid out in pretty little boxes and numbers. Uncle Bill leans forward. Now, Lauren, your grandfather would have wanted. Don't. My voice cuts through the air. Don't tell me what my grandfather would have wanted. The diner door chimes. Teresa slips in, followed by Mr. Harrison, the family attorney, his briefcase clutched tight. Mom's eyes widen. What is he doing here? I invited him. The watch ticks steadily in my pocket. Since we're discussing legal matters. Camille's polished smile cracks slightly. This is a family discussion. Exactly. Mr. Harrison sets his briefcase on the counter. And as the executor of Walter Miller's estate, I have a duty to this family, specifically to ensure his wishes are respected. The projector whirs. Another slide appears. Contest trust fund. Legal options. Interesting research. I pull out my phone, thumbing through screenshots. Been busy on Mom's computer, haven't you, Camille? Color drains from Travis's face. What? Grounds for mental incompetence claims. Contesting irrevocable trusts. Proving undue influence. Each title lands like a hammer blow. Planning to argue Grandfather Walter wasn't in his right mind when he wrote his will? Aunt Sarah gasps. Uncle Bill studies his coffee cup. It's not like that, Mom protests. We just want what's best. Best for who? Teresa's voice rings out. Best for Lauren? Or best for Camille's wedding plans? This is ridiculous. Camille's fingers twist her pearl necklace. We're trying to help Travis start his life. Lauren's being selfish. The word echoes off formica tables and chrome trim. Selfish. The same thing they called me when I wanted to go to college instead of working full-time at the diner. When I moved into my own apartment instead of staying home to help with bills. I look at each face in turn. Mom, avoiding my eyes. Dad, shoulders slumped. Travis, caught between loyalty to his fiancée and the shame creeping across his features. The extended family, suddenly fascinated by their coffee cups. Grandfather Walter's voice whispers in my memory. You listen, Lauren, that's your gift. You actually listen. No. The word rings clear and strong. What? Camille blinks. Not one penny. I pull the trust documents from my bag. This money has a purpose: education, home ownership, starting a business, legal, binding, unchangeable. But, Travis starts. Mr. Harrison? I turn to the attorney. He adjusts his glasses. The terms are quite clear. Any attempt to access or redirect these funds outside their designated purposes would constitute fraud. You can't be serious. Camille's voice rises. After everything this family has done for you? A laugh bubbles up, surprising even me. Done for me? You mean like plotting to declare my grandfather mentally incompetent, turning the family against me, trying to guilt me into breaking the law? Now wait a minute, Dad straightens. No, you wait. My voice stays level. Grandfather Walter knew this would happen. He knew you'd try to take what wasn't yours. That's why he protected it. Protected me. Lauren, please. Mom's eyes fill with tears. We just want. What's best? I know. I gather my things. But this isn't about what's best for anyone. It's about control, and I'm done being controlled. Chairs scrape as I head for the door. The night air hits my face, carrying the scent of early autumn. Behind me, voices rise in argument. Footsteps pound the pavement. Lauren, wait. I turn. Travis stands in the parking lot, looking lost without Camille at his side. She's making me do this. His voice cracks. We're in debt. The credit cards, the ring, she said your money was the only way. Why should I believe you now? His phone buzzes. The screen lights up. Camille Teje, did she fall for it? Travis stares at the message, then at me. In the diner window, Camille watches, her face a perfect mask of concern. I touch Grandfather Walter's watch one last time, feeling its steady heartbeat against my palm. Goodbye, Travis. The engine starts on the first try. In my rearview mirror, the diner's lights blur and fade, leaving only darkness and the long road home. At the present, the calendar on my kitchen wall stared back at me, 45 red X marks tracking the days since I'd last spoken to my family. Each morning, I'd add another X while my coffee brewed, trying to convince myself that the ache in my chest grew smaller with each passing day. It didn't. My apartment had become both a sanctuary and prison. The walls held my grandmother's recipes, framed and arranged in a neat grid. Her snickerdoodle instructions bore coffee stains and butter smudges, testaments to decades of love measured in cups and teaspoons. On my desk, a stack of small business loan applications waited for my signature. The top page bore my careful handwriting, Walter's Place Bakery business plan. My new phone buzzed. Teresa's name lit up the screen. They're telling everyone you abandoned them, she said without preamble. Aunt Linda cornered me at the grocery store, wanted to know if you'd moved to California. I snorted. Because Ohio's not big enough to hide from them? Mom says Diane's been crying at church, real waterworks during the hymns. My mother's voicemails had grown increasingly theatrical. Last week's gem included phrases like breaking my heart and after all we've sacrificed. Dad's contribution was showing up at my office only to be turned away by security. The wedding website Travis and Camille created featured a blog post about healing family divisions subtle as a brick through a window. The anonymous messages came next. Distant relatives and family friends, their texts dripping with phrases like family duty and selfish choices. I'd changed my email password 3 times after suspicious login attempts. I spread the loan paperwork across my kitchen table, losing myself in projected revenues and startup costs. The numbers grounded me, solid and unchanging. No emotional manipulation in a balance sheet. My phone buzzed again. The family group chat I'd muted but never left lit up with Travis's name. Probably another passive-aggressive meme about ungrateful siblings. But the image loading wasn't a meme. It was a screenshot of messages between Travis and Camille. My brother's response appeared instantly. No, wait, delete. Too late. I'd already seen it. Camille. Lauren's pathetic little dreams of a bakery. Like she'd ever make it work. Travis, baby, please don't. Camille. She's too soft to hold out forever. Once she sees our wedding registry, the guilt will break her. These small-town people are so easy to manipulate. Just look at your parents, Lowell. Travis, I feel bad about. Camille, don't you dare go soft on me. I'm not dating you for your sparkling personality. Your family connections and that inheritance potential are the only things keeping me here. Once we get Lauren's money, we can finally get that Lexus. Forget the wedding expenses. The group chat erupted. Typing indicators blinked like Christmas lights as family members read in stunned silence. Mom's response came first, a single question. Is this real? Travis's desperate damage control followed. It's not what it looks like. She was joking. Camille has a weird sense of humor. Dad's message landed like a gavel. Family meeting. Tomorrow. No excuses. My phone exploded with notifications. Camille calling. Travis calling. Mom calling. Texts poured in from aunts, uncles, cousins. The family grapevine blazed with digital fire. I didn't know. Travis's private message popped up. Lauren, I swear I didn't know how bad it was. She kept saying it was for our future. I let her convince me that you owed us. Please call me. Mom's voicemail caught me off guard. No theatrics this time, just tears and a broken, I'm so sorry, baby, we should have listened. I sat in my quiet apartment, surrounded by loan applications and my grandmother's recipes. Vindication should have tasted sweet. Instead, it filled my mouth like ashes. My business plan lay open on the table. The cover page bore the name Walter's Place in clean, professional font. Light from the setting sun caught the gold watch that had been Grandfather Walter's, ticking steadily on my wrist. Its rhythm matched my heartbeat, grounding me in this moment of seismic change. Travis's name lit up my phone again. The accept call button glowed, waiting for my choice. Forgiveness or freedom, healing or walking away. The power to choose burned in my palm like a coal. The watch ticked, the phone glowed. Outside my window, an Ohio sunset painted the sky in shades of possibility. I looked at my grandfather's watch one more time, remembering his words. Life gives you defining moments, Lauren. Choose the path that lets you sleep at night. My finger hovered over the phone screen, trembling with the weight of what came next. The doorbell chimed at 8 the next morning. Through the peephole, Camille stood in the hallway of my apartment building, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. Her mascara left subtle tracks down her cheeks, artfully done, I noticed. Too perfect to be genuine. I opened the door but blocked the entrance with my body. What do you want? Lauren, please, her voice trembled. I need to explain. About Travis, about everything. She fumbled in her bag, withdrawing a monogrammed handkerchief to dab at her eyes. I was just trying to help him, you have to understand. The constant hum of my neighbor's air conditioner filled the silence between us. My phone weighed heavy in my pocket, the voice recorder app already running. I'd learned from Grandfather Walter that preparation beats regret. Come in. I stepped aside, watching her designer heels click against my worn hardwood floors. Would you like some coffee? No, She broke off, her hand twitching toward her purse. A faint electronic chirp escaped, barely audible, just as I'd suspected she was recording too. You should turn off your phone, I said quietly. The audio might get distorted. The color drained from her perfectly bronzed face. What? Your recording device, the one in your purse that you just started. I pulled out my own phone, displaying the active recording screen. I prefer to keep things transparent these days. Her mask cracked. The perfectly crafted tears vanished, replaced by something cold and sharp. You little snake. She jabbed a manicured finger toward my face. You've ruined everything I've worked for. Months of planning, every careful step. Careful steps like manipulating my brother or turning my parents against me? You think you're so clever. Her laugh held no humor. Wait until Travis hears about how you made advances toward me. How you've been obsessing over me, sending inappropriate messages. Really? I kept my voice level. That's your play? It's your word against mine, and who will the family believe? The cold, selfish daughter who abandoned them, or the heartbroken fiancé who only wanted to help? She straightened her silk blouse. I'll make sure you never have a moment's peace. I'll tie up that trust fund in court for years. By the time I'm done, your precious family won't even remember your name. A door creaked behind her. Camille whirled around to find Teresa stepping out of my spare bedroom, phone in hand. I think the family might be interested in hearing your version of events right now. I held up my phone. Would you like to repeat that thread about the lawsuits? You were very specific about your plans. The transformation was spectacular. Gone was the polished society woman, replaced by something feral and cornered. You recorded me? That's illegal. Ohio is a one-party consent state, Teresa said, her voice sharp with satisfaction. Lauren only needed her own permission to record you attempting to blackmail her. Camille snatched her purse, stumbling back toward the door. This isn't over. Actually, it is. I opened the door. The family's waiting at the diner. They're very interested in hearing these recordings. Coming? The diner's familiar bell chimed as we entered that night. My family sat in their usual spots, Mom and Dad at the counter, Travis in his corner booth. The lunch rush wouldn't start for hours. Perfect. I placed my phone in the center of the largest table. Travis's face had already lost its color, like he knew what was coming. Mom gripped her ever-present cleaning cloth. Dad's fingers drummed against his thigh. The recording played. You little snake. Wait until Travis hears. I'll make sure you never have a moment's peace. Camille's true voice filled the diner, each word sharp enough to draw blood. I watched their faces as the truth sank in. Mom's hands stopped moving. Dad's fingers went still. In Travis, me brother looked like every childhood Christmas had just been erased. When the final threat faded into silence, I stood. I have something to say to each of you. I turned to Travis first. His head hung low, but I waited until he met my eyes. She never loved you. She loved what she thought she could get from you. Your connections, your potential inheritance, your willingness to believe her over your own sister. Lauren, his voice cracked. No. The word came out firm but quiet. You chose this. You let her convince you I was the enemy, your own sister. Mom's sniffling drew my attention. And you too. I faced my parents. You chose to believe the worst about me instead of trusting me. Instead of remembering everything you taught me about integrity, about doing what's right. The silence stretched. Outside, a car horn honked. The coffee maker gurgled. Travis stood slowly, like his bones had aged decades in minutes. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. The engagement ring caught the diner's fluorescent lights as he placed it on the table in front of Camille. Get out, his voice shook. Get out and don't come back. Travis, darling, you can't possibly. Get out! The words exploded from him, raw and jagged. Camille's chair screeched against the linoleum as she stood. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. She snatched the ring box and her purse. All of you. The bell chimed again as she left. Its cheerful tone felt wrong against the heavy silence. Lauren, Mom's voice wavered. We were wrong, so wrong, please. Please what? The words tasted bitter. Please forgive you for assuming I was lying, for taking her side every time? Yes. Dad's gruff admission startled me. He hadn't moved from his spot at the counter, but his shoulders slumped forward. We were wrong and we're sorry. The family dispersed slowly after that. Mumbled apologies, awkward attempts at hugs I couldn't accept yet. Soon I stood alone in the empty diner, surrounded by the ghosts of 1,000 family meals. I pulled Grandfather Walter's pocket watch from my bag, its worn brass case smooth against my palm. The trust fund paper spread across the table caught the late afternoon sun. He'd known somehow, he'd known this day would come. Known that family could become strangers, that love could twist into something sharp and dangerous. But he'd also known I would stand firm. The watch ticked steadily in my hand, each sound a reminder that time moves forward, never back. The family I'd lost might never be the same. But maybe, just maybe, we could build something new from the ashes of what burned. If we were brave enough to try. 6 months later, the scent of fresh cinnamon rolls wafts through the crisp morning air as I cut the red ribbon stretched across the entrance of Walter's Place Bakery. Camera flashes pop while Teresa beams beside me, holding one end of the oversized scissors. The small crowd gathered on Main Street breaks into applause, their breath visible in the November chill. Ladies and gentlemen, I announce, my voice steady despite the flutter in my chest, welcome to Walter's Place. The storefront gleams with its new paint job warm cream with forest green trim, just like the colors from Grandfather Walter's garden shed where he taught me about profit margins and business plans. The brass bell above the door sparkles. Inside, display cases filled with pastries catch the morning sun through spotless windows. Teresa squeezes my arm. He would have loved this. My eyes drift to Grandfather Walter's portrait mounted near the register's weathered face captured mid-laugh during a family picnic 20 years ago. The wood frame matches the handcrafted shelving units Travis installed last week. Travis. He moves through the crowd now, carrying boxes of fresh supplies into the kitchen. His shoulders have lost their entitled slope. His smile no longer carries that edge of expectation. When he passes, our eyes meet briefly. The shame has faded from his expression, replaced by something quieter, something real. Need help with those, I ask? Got it covered, sis. He adjusts his grip on the boxes. Though we could use another set of hands in the kitchen, your assistant called in sick. I can help, Mom offers from her corner table. She and Dad sit with their coffee cups, no longer commanding the room but finally fitting naturally into it. 6 months of family therapy and hard conversations have worn smooth some of our roughest edges. I nod. Thanks, Mom. The morning rush starts in 20. The first customers filter in, ooh-hing over the display cases. My small staff moves with practiced efficiency. We've done 3 trial runs this week alone. The register chimes, orders flow. My hands remember every motion from years of helping at the diner. Between customers, Teresa corners me near the kitchen. Remember when you first told me you were going to do this, when everything was falling apart? You were the only one who believed I could. Not the only one. She nods toward Walter's portrait. He knew. That's why he protected you, protected this dream. A young woman approaches the counter, clutching a notebook. Her eyes dart between me and the floor. Miss Miller? I was wondering. I have this idea for a small business, but I don't know where to start. Someone said you might be willing to talk about it? The register tape rustles as it prints another receipt. Through the kitchen door, I glimpse Mom showing Travis how to properly proof the afternoon's dough. On the wall, Grandfather Walter's eyes crinkle with eternal laughter. Pull up a chair, I tell the young woman. And call me Lauren. Let me grab us some coffee and you can tell me everything. The morning whirls past in a flurry of pastries, coffee, and conversation. Before I know it, the sun hangs low and orange through the front windows. I count out the register while my evening staff wipes down tables. The day's receipts stack neatly better than projected. My phone buzzes when I am ready to lock and go home. A text from Travis. Family dinner Sunday? 6 months ago, that message would have sent ice through my veins. Now I study it, feeling the weight of all that's changed. Of boundaries drawn and respected, of trust slowly rebuilt. I type back, yes, I'm bringing dessert this time. The brass bell chimes as the last customer leaves. I lock the door, flip the sign to closed, and do my final walkthrough. The kitchen gleams, prepped for tomorrow, every surface sparkles. In the office, a stack of applications sits in my inbox, the first round of candidates for the small business mentorship program bearing Grandfather Walter's name. Outside, stars pierce the early evening sky. My keys jingle as I set the alarm. Across the street, the old diner's lights still glow, but I'm not running away this time. I'm walking forward, one step at a time, on a path my grandfather saw long before I did. And now, finally, so does everyone else. Above me, the new sign catches the last light of day. Walter's Place Bakery, where legacy rises with every fresh batch of dreams.